Hello, my name is Jacob Lambros. I will be speaking to you on PTSD. I'm very credible for this topic. My dad, brother, I have two brothers-in-law, and my uncle were all in the military. And I want to talk about my uncle today. He actually experienced PTSD, and I got kind of a first-hand experience on the toll it takes on the mind and what actually happens in PTSD. He was in the Marine Corps, and he got shipped to Afghanistan, and what he experienced in the war symptoms of Afghanistan kind of changed who he was. And when he came back to civilian life, he wasn't necessarily the same him when he left. And his wife noticed that immediately, and she's been talking to him about getting help and kind of making that change. But he didn't see anything that was wrong with him, so he refused. He didn't need any help. He didn't need anything like that. And then there was an incident with his daughter, and that kind of changed his viewpoint on getting help and things, and he trusted his wife. So he went to go get help with Veterans Affairs, which I'll talk about later in the speech. But he got some help, and they gave him a job working at a gun store. So he's still working there now, and he's very, very equipped with the intelligence when it comes to guns. So that's kind of his forte. But in this speech, I'll be talking to you about what PTSD is, then transition to civilian life, what war veterans actually experience in the war, and how it affects them, their mind and things, and essentially what they can do to get help. So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's kind of that it. Post-traumatic means something traumatic actually happened, and it changed who they were, and they are kind of like trying to fix themselves and trying to be who they still are, even though they're going through this post-traumatic stress disorder. And it is a disorder, and it's psychological disorder. And it's proven, and it kind of changes who you are. And with my research and the things that I have found, fear is very, very alive in these people's minds, and it kind of takes over who they are. And that's why it's very, very difficult to transition from a war-like zone to civilian life and the white picket fence and the wife and the kids and things like that, after being experienced to bombs and shooting and guns and things. And it's very, very difficult for them. Some symptoms that they can go through that kind of give you a telltale sign that they are going through PTSD. One of them would be re-experiencing symptoms. So they're re-experiencing the things that they went through in the war. And that's kind of what my uncle kind of had. He was re-experiencing the things, and he was very jittery at night and couldn't get sleep, and things like that all went into his stress disorder. Another symptom would be avoidance. So when they change who they are from when they leave to when they come back from war, sometimes they can be overwhelmed by everyday things that happen, like a TV being on, a baby crying, something like that wouldn't really affect them before, but now it does. So they would be avoiding, and they would be in the corner. They wouldn't talk to anybody. They would just avoid everything because everything would scare them. Another symptom would be hyperarousal. So that's when they're jittery, or they're feeling tense, or they can't get sleep, or things like this, and they all go into symptoms of PTSD. Next, I will talk about the war veterans and how they go through so many different things in war it's incredible what they go through. I asked my uncle one of the big things he went through in Afghanistan, and he told me, have you ever slept, like sleeping, and then 5 seconds later having to run for your life? That's what he told me. He's like, imagine that. 5 seconds after instantly waking up to running for your life. He said a bomb went off right by his shelter, and he couldn't, he just reacted instantly, and he woke up, the building was blown away, whole bomb went off, and he grabbed his gun off the wall, and he was running for his life to go in to get safety. And that's a very, very harsh thing to experience, but it stayed with him. I mean, it messed up his head. And the emotional, the trauma that these war veterans go through is insane. How they even survive is beyond me. But they can be emotionally traumatized by what my uncle went through and what a lot of other veterans go through, and worse. But they can also be physically traumatized by paralyzed, amputations, things like that, where bombs go off right next to them and their leg gets blown off. Things like that they don't necessarily come back from. Next would be a way that they can get help. And a lot of times people go through life and they don't get help. Good thing my uncle's wife was there to kind of push the envelope for him to get some help, but a lot of people don't. So the government kind of opened up a department. It's called the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, where they handle cases like PTSD, and they give psychological counseling to the veterans. And one thing I thought that was very cool, that they are able to talk to other war veterans, so they can kind of be on a level-to-level basis when they're talking to somebody and about war and kind of things that they went through. It's kind of a personal thing. Another thing would be jobs. They can get jobs. I mean, when you come in from military, going into civilian life, you don't automatically get a job. So it kind of helps them. And that's what my uncle did. He was able to get a job through Veterans Affairs and get a job at the gun store, and that's where he is now. Because he's very, very well versed in guns, so he's right where he needs to be. But without Veterans Affairs, he wouldn't have a job right now. So, and another thing would be family support. The family is a very, very big factor in the life of a veteran, kind of getting him back on his feet. So they offer family support when you can do psychological counseling with the family and with wife, kids, things like that. And one thing I thought was very, very important with the VA is they offer a hotline, so that if anything happens in the household, that the wife, children, anybody can call, and officers would show up in the case of an emergency that would happen within the household. And then, to summarize, fear is still alive in these victims' minds, these war veterans, and the things that they go through when they're in war-like symptoms or war-like traumatic events that they experience. The things they go through is incredible, and transitioning to civilian life can be very, very difficult for people like that, and sometimes they don't fully transition to civilian life, and then in that case they would need to get help, in which they can go to Veterans Affairs. And if you, or if anyone you know has PTSD or is experiencing any of the symptoms, then definitely call the Department of Veterans Affairs so that they can get the help they need. Thank you.